Hello, everybody. This is James Tokley, member of Seaford High School, class of 1966. Unfortunately, I can't be with you this evening. Nevertheless, I send my thoughts and my words of what I remember of those wonderful years that we proudly called ourselves Seaford Blue Jays. 1963 was an often compelling, often confusing, and wonderful year. It was the year President John F. Kennedy announced to the world, "We shall go to the moon." It was the year that President Kennedy lost his life in a Dallas, Texas motorcade. And it was the year four mop top young men from Liverpool arrested the world with their song, "I Want to Hold Your Hand." The year 200,000 freedom marchers descended on Washington, D.C. to hear an itinerant preacher by the name of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. say, "I have a dream." And it was the year my grandparents, Clarence and Mary Tokley Sr., had tense conversations as to what would become of my academic destiny. Referring to me by my nickname, Buster, my grandfather said to an unusually silent and poised grandmother, Mary, all these years he was in school, I was the one who went to Buster's PTA meetings, not you. And now you want him to go to a white high school. My grandfather was referring to predominantly white Seaford Senior High School, and said my grandfather, who everybody called Dad, even his grandson. But I want Buster to go to Jason, the traditional and only all black high school that for years was where most black students from southern Delaware attended high school. With a voice that rumbled deep in his chest, Dad concluded, "And now you want him to go to those white people's schools. I don't feel comfortable around white people. I'm not going to be attending no PTA meetings over there. And if you do like you did when he attended the other schools, neither will you." There was a brief, intense silence. Then my grandmother spoke, without even clearing her throat. This feisty black woman who made her living by cleaning white folks' houses said, "I want our grandson to go to the white school so that he can get the same quality of education as the white children receive. So I'll go to those PTA meetings and I'll support him in any way I can. But Buster is going to Seaford High School." My grandfather sighed with his heavy farmer's frame and turned to go outside. My grandmother glanced at me and smiled as if to say, "I guess we told him." And from that day until this day, my life and my destiny would never be the same. 3 years later, I graduated in the class of 1966. 25 years later, at our class reunion, I wrote and recited a poem simply entitled "To the Class of 1966, an ode to the Seaford Blue Jays." In celebration of our 50th class reunion, with apologies that I can't be with you in person, I would recite that poem. So here goes. To the class of 1966. What is it that we hope to find, tucked deep inside each other's eyes, that painfully brings back to mind the last time that we said goodbye? What message do we hope to get? Whose pleasant voice do we hope to hear? Whose laughter have we sorely missed that has followed us throughout the years? Now we assemble in this place and meet each other face to face, once more to celebrate the spark of youth before again we part. For these were the days of blue and gold, with marching bands and football boys, with Beatle songs that flamed our souls and rocketed our youthful joy, where life was a lunchtime submarine or a copy of Mad Magazine. And these were the days of Madras shirts, of white Levi's and floor-shine shoes, where mankind stepped beyond the earth and Cameron Swayze read the news. And the world was a dangerous Disneyland where Boy Scouts dreamed of Vietnam, and each girl had her boyfriend's ring hung round her neck on a silver string. And the nighttime games were strung with stars as hometown cheered young gods of Mars, who swept the field and caught the passes. Onward, Seaford, onward, class. No matter where our minds might stray, our dreams belong to yesterday. And the classrooms beckon us once more as echoes bounce off the old gym floor. And we detect on an autumn breeze the scent of fries from the Tasty Freeze. For we were the children of a dream that guided us as boys and girls and sought to teach us what life means in the nylon capital of the world, wherein we came as neophytes, bereft of hatred, black or white, and momentarily glimpsed the time that ever would remain divinely caught up in our memories as the way the world was meant to be. Do you remember the jokes and quips, Howie Fallon's vomit strip, that the guys would have to push to start, but Howie insisted was a work of art? And Terry Palmer, who could go a while with Michelangelo, for Terry was a genius with an eye for style, ahead of his time by a country mile. And the first school, as I recall, to shave his head completely bald. I'm coming to you to join you, Terry. Then he gathered round a faithful crew who always did what they saw Terry do. And there was Liza, perfect blonde, pink lips in a Marilyn Monroe pout, whose form and figure pointed on to Hollywood without a doubt. And Stephanie Palmer, Terry's niece, who walked with me the blocksome road, and her brother Nathan, whose nimble feet could cause a track meet to explode. And there was Leland Dorman, number one. If he couldn't do it, then it couldn't get done. And there was dapper Freddie Conaway, who always knew what tune to play and always had a lot of fun at expense of dear old Mr. Gunn. Ah, Mr. Gunn, remember him? A young crew cut who stood as thin and limber as his band baton. We worshipped the ground he walked upon. And when we Blue Jays marched through town and the big bass drums began to pound their heart beat cadence, left, right, left, and the drum major got beside himself, and the majorette stepped, and the band swept by, and the midday loomed like a big blue eye as the crowd warmed up. With the autumn sun, by the side of the band marched Mr. Gunn. Remember him? And since I've started, what about young Harriet Sparks, Miss Nichols, with her fiery hair and freckles like the county fair, whose blue eyes held the secret key that made great Shakespeare speak to me, with a voice that held me firm and fast and made the world my English class. But she wasn't mine alone, 'tis true, for Wesley Collins loved her too. And yet, of all the ones I knew who taught me much of Seaford High, one name stands out among the few whose ways and words will never die. For this teacher had a special way of telling us what to do today, and never liked to talk too fast. But he taught a real nice history class, full of 50-cent words, as he used to say. Mr. Ellis always grinned, but he did not play. and he kept Bob James right by his desk to make sure young Bobby did his best. But Mr. Ellis always seemed to me a friendly, portly Cherokee with a long and worldly Seaford drawl that warned us he had seen it all. There is, of course, no way I could begin to name all them we knew, and yet there are some special names I must recall before I'm through. Permit me, classmates, if you will, to speak of Harley Williams' Price, a football debt, and a dentist bill he collected from a previous life. And Evie, whom I shan't forget, who taught me Homer's alphabet, or Judy Bloxam, she whose laughter shook the dust from heaven's rafters, Eric Barnes, our football god, and Ernie, who threw 50 yards but never got to play first string, and Larry, who played everything, and the tall and regal Arnold Van, who always had a master plan, and Phelmonia Motley, her father's pet, who played a B-flat clarinet, John Ross and Buzz and tall Joe Quigg, Kit Folk, James Cannon, and Dale Schaefer, who figured out he could refit his car to flame out its exhaust like a shooting star, and the senior class play that stopped the world for fear that Josh would kiss the girl, and the senior prom where Terry and I took Karen and Linda to light the sky with rented tucks and ballroom gowns in a 55 Ford as we played James Brown. Look out. And the yearbook entries that we made, and commencement when we sat afraid in mortal fear of the final call that said we'd made it after all. How far we've traveled since those days to lose what we swore not to lose, but to gain in countless other ways a world of great and diverse views. We miss you, sacred blue and gold, with your college prep and pom-pom skies, for you kept us sheltered from the cold in a house of friendship, warm and dry. Therefore, tonight your children come, may we always stay forever young. A toast, my friends, to the glory days of the 1966 Blue Jays. And remember one thing, wherever you go, I want you to know you're my buddies, my pals, my friends.